Hi guys, welcome everyone. Welcome to this MobiFlight release review video. My name is Sebastian. I am the creator of MobiFlight, and I'm super excited that there is a new version available, MobiFlight 9.0, and it's for you, the MobiFlight community. You are awesome, and you deserve this release. It's a loaded release this time. There's so many new features, there's so many cool new stuff in there, and there's also bug fixes and other enhancements. In this video we are going to talk about all these cool improvements, and we will look at every single one of those so that you know what's new and that you also know that it's definitely worth updating. All right, so here we are at the MobiFlight project website. You can go to the download section. If you want a fresh install, you can download MobiFlight from there. Or of course, MobiFlight will inform you about an update. What the cool thing about this website is, on the download area, in the download section, you will also find the release notes for every single release. So you will always have an opportunity to check, oh, what's new, what has been improved, and what kind of bugs were fixed. And yeah, let's take a close look at every single one of those. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is the MobiFlight moved to GitHub improvement or new feature. So it's not really a feature in the sense of that you have something inside the app or in the firmware of MobiFlight, but from a community perspective, from a perspective that MobiFlight is an open source project, it's a really cool improvement. So now we're hosted, the source code is hosted on GitHub. GitHub has a far better reach. There's so many more people on GitHub that are dedicating their resources and they're contributing to open source projects. So I hope that this will increase the visibility of MobiFlight. And also at the same time, GitHub has actually really cool features for collaboration, and we are already seeing this. So we migrated from Bitbucket, where we used to host MobiFlight. We migrated to GitHub on, I believe it was July 1st. And since then, we already use some of these tools that are available to capture ideas, to capture bug reports, to capture feature requests, and so on and so forth. So it's a really cool platform, and I'm looking forward to having MobiFlight there on GitHub. Yeah, and this one is actually a real feature in the sense that you can see it in the MobiFlight application, and that you can also see it in the firmware part. So we have now support for analog inputs, and this is something that you as the community, you have asked for so long. And I also know I had it on my to-do list for so long, and I never really got to it. And then finally Manfred Berry from the MobiFlight community, he's a Discord user, he said, you know what, I would really like to see that in MobiFlight, and he dedicated his time into this. And he helped me then also create it. So he did a lot of the groundwork. I just went over it by a little bit at the end to just like the final touch-ups. But the groundwork and the majority of the work, really we have to give credit to Manfred Berry. And it's a great example of community involvement. I'm really, really happy. And let's take a look real quick at how these analog inputs actually work. All right, so here I have started MobiFlight version 9.0, and it's an empty configuration. So if you go to settings, extra settings, and then you go to instruments, on my Arduino board, which is called instruments, I have already assigned an analog input. So an analog input, obviously, as a pin, you will choose one of the available analog pins, and it will also only show you on the drop down the analog inputs. And then you have the slider, the sensitivity slider. So the analog input, if you connect the potentiometer to it, to any of the analog pins, then theoretically we'll get a reading between 0 and 1024. In fact, like when you connect one, you will see that you will not be so accurate. So it will be something like between 10 up to maybe 10-15 roundabout, like in this range. But the sensitivity slider really allows you to control how many events, so how often MobiFlight receives a message that the analog input has changed. So if you want to receive many messages, you would set the sensitivity setting to high, so which means in this case, for example, 2. Every time the value changes by at least 2, it will then trigger an event. Or if you want it not so noisy or not so chattery, then you would set it to low. So very low would mean the value, the reading has to change by 20, so that actually the MobiFlight board will send a message to the MobiFlight connector app and say, hey, the value has changed. It really depends on the use case, I guess, and it makes sense to have the sensitivity slider. So this is on the side of the device settings, the device configurations. Obviously, you have it here as add device, or you can also remove the device. You have it also available in the context menu. So the next thing, which is just worth it's good to know, if you can use it in inputs, yeah, like an analog input is an input setting. So you would create an analog input configuration. I'll call this analog input demo, and then you can use in any of the existing, like when you choose the device analog input, and in any of the existing action types, let's say for example the custom input, it will tell you that it supports the input value by using the @ symbol. So basically what this means is you can use @ and then it will replace @ with the current reading from your analog input, whether this is 10 or 1015 or 512, anywhere it will always give you the current reading. And that's very, very useful because you can realize a throttle with this, or you can realize you can manipulate the flap settings or whatever. So it's really up to you and being creative with this new feature. I hope you like it. I love it. And I'm really happy that we have finally support for potentiometers in MobiFlight. All right, let's move on to the next one. Provide MobiFlight variables to store and read data without having to use FSUIPC or the WASM module. And this is really a crazy new feature. MobiFlight variables means that we have a built-in store for reading and writing variables without the need of going through the flight sim. And I will show you how to do this. So let's assume we have a button, and we want every time that we click the button, we want to increment a counter. Button increment. So we can go, I'll choose it, it's connected to my GNS 430. I will take the CDI button. And now we have a new action type available, which is called MobiFlight Variable. So it allows you to store a number or a string, and I will take the number, and then we will give it a name, and counter would make sense if we want to have a counter. And the dollar symbol, as always, references the current value for this variable. If we're starting fresh, it's going to be 0. So every time that we are hitting the button, what we want to do is we want to increment this value by 1. Awesome. So we can activate this. I'm in offline mode, so I can actually go run, and now I'm hitting the button, and okay, you don't see anything because we have not created an output. So let's read the counter. Let's read this variable. What we have to do is we have to pick from the variable type. It's not an FSUIPC offset. It's not a SymConnect offset. It's a MobiFlight variable. It's type number. We call it counter, so you have to take care of this for now to make sure that the name is the same name. We don't want to do any transform. We could also do compare. We can all do this fancy stuff. We can also take this value and put it out on an LED, 7-segment display, whatever. But for illustrating this right now, I will just leave it like so. So now we're running this. Okay, I'm hitting now the button again. and boom, it's increasing with every single click. It's increasing our MobiFlight variable by 1. If I want other stuff, I can either go here and I can say by +10 or make some more fancy calculations. So you will see now every time that I click, it's going to increment by 10. Yeah, or we could do the same thing here by transforming. So it's unlimited possibilities. If you ever have the need to store a variable or manipulate a variable with your device that does not come from the sim that you are creating virtually, and there's many applications for this, many scenarios where this comes in really handy. You can do this now natively using MobiFlight variables. And the good thing is, because we stay inside of MobiFlight, it's lightning fast, and yeah, it's really cool. I hope you like it. All right, let's go to the next one, and it's another exciting improvement because it will save you a lot of time if you are a Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 user. So this one is about dynamic code events via the WASM module. So dynamic code events means that basically instead of using our events text files, like where we have all these presets, you can take any of these codes. Yeah, and it doesn't matter which one, and you say dynamic input. Oops, I don't care. So let's go for the GNS 430 and the CDI button again. We have this new action type. It's called MSFS 2020 custom input. And here you can paste whatever you want. You can even work with line breaks to make it a little bit more readable. It's currently limited to 255 characters or 254, don't quote me on that, but it's like a little limitation in there. Yes, there is, but typically most of these things that currently would ship with the events text can also be put in here. And that's really cool because one of the main advantages, if you have a custom add-on that's not coming with the presets and you're working with the model behaviors dialog and you're experimenting and you're copying your stuff together, you're trying to figure out what the right way is to trigger the function in the cockpit that you would like, you can do so now by using custom inputs, and you do not have to reload the WASM module again. This is on the fly. Just run MobiFlight, make the change, hit the button, and this code, whatever you put in there, will get executed. You can use reverse Polish notation, all that fancy stuff. If you want to learn more about this, come to the community, join Discord. There is so much knowledge around this. We have created a new platform, HopHop, where we're collecting all these events. So this is going to be huge and widely used for everyone who is using Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I hope you like this. It's going to save you a lot of time, I'm pretty sure. Good. The next one is enhance the number of IOs by using a shift register. So shift register is a way to increase the number of available inputs and outputs. In this case, we started supporting adding outputs. So the shift registers that are supported are SPI based, which is a kind of a protocol which is common. And we will also create a more specific video tutorial on this. I actually don't have a shift register of this type in my box at the moment. It's another community contribution by Manfred Berry, so kudos go to Manfred Berry one more time after already adding potentiometers. So it's really cool. That was always what I wanted, that community members, people from the MobiFlight community step up and say, hey, I know this stuff, I can code, and I have this scenario in my cockpit where this would be helpful for me. I implement this and I shared with the community. So this is another example, and it's really cool. I can show you the interface for this and explain a little bit of how this works. So if you go to, let's say, instruments, and that's one of the boards that's connected. Now you see that the shift register available. Shift register, it's SPI. It doesn't call out the types. Actually, we have the types. I will provide it in the comment section. These drivers require 3 pins. and you can also daisy chain them. So it's 8-bit register. If you have a 16-bit register, what you can also do, you can just pick 2. It will still use, and you will have this available as a new output type. So if I upload this to my module, what is going to happen is that from now on I will also be able to pick this type in the output settings. So demo, I can go here, whatever I read, let's say MobiFlight variable, yeah, read this. Now I want to display this. I might want an LED to turn on, so I can go and use the type of shift register. And it basically behaves the same as a regular output, like a single pin would work. So you can now here select, you cannot assign individual device names. You can only assign a name to the shift register as a whole, and then the inputs of the shift register are addressable by static names. What you can also do, which is a new feature which also works for general outputs, is you can actually select multiple and say, I want to set the output not only for one pin high or low, I want to actually do this for a group of pins, which might be a nice thing if you have LED annunciator lights and you want to make them go on all at the same time. So this is pretty cool. I'm going to show this. This is also working for the regular input. So in this case, I only have one pin connected to this board. I apologize, but if there were more output pins, you would also see this list. So this is pretty cool. It's a little hidden feature in itself, but it came with the shift register support. Thanks again, Manfred Berry, for providing us with this, sharing your code, and we will definitely provide some more documentation on the GitHub wiki, or also create a dedicated video to explain how this goes, also with the circuit that you need and what kind of IC modules are compatible. Cool. Let's move on to the next one. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 6th new feature of this release. I told you it's gonna be a packed release this time. So this is a YouTube button that is now available in the main menu. It's a small change, but hopefully it will also create awareness that there's a YouTube channel, MobiFlight YouTube channel available. If you click on it, it immediately takes us to the channel where you have access to all the other videos. I hope you like that too. Not everyone might know that there is actually YouTube videos available by MobiFlight, and especially also these release review videos might be really useful for people to get started, or as a source of documentation. All right, and then we are heading to the last new feature. All right, coming to the last new feature, the last one, but not the least one. It's very important actually for me. It's the MobiFlight community feedback program that I started with 9.0. It's the MobiFlight community feedback feature, and it says telemetry tracking, and that is what it actually is. What does that mean? You as the MobiFlight community, you as a user, if you participate in this community feedback, you will automatically provide me some cool information about how you are actually using MobiFlight, which at the moment I have had no idea. Okay, so I put out a new version, I put out a new maybe also function and feature. I had no clue of how people are actually using it, if they're actually using it. So with the MobiFlight community feedback program, this is going to be possible, and you don't have to do anything. The only thing that you have to do is the next time that you start, or the first time that you start the MobiFlight 9.0 version, there's going to be a pop-up. I'm going to show you how that looks. So the first time that you started, you'll see the release notes. You can install the WAS module if you haven't done so. And now you see this MobiFlight community feedback program. And I really ask you, be so kind, participate now. Obviously, it's optional. Just hit the participate now button. You can also go on the website and you can read up on it. The community feedback program, it's really explained in detail. You can see what I'm trying to get out of the data, what I'm actually collecting, and everything happens in the background. It's not disturbing you. You can use anything. For me, it's super insightful. If you decide ever for any reason that you don't want to participate in the community feedback program, you can go to the settings dialog under extra settings and you can disable it anytime. I ask you, please be so kind, participate in the feedback program so that I can have a better understanding what's important to you, so that I can also better prioritize stuff and features and new things based on the insights that I get from you. So thank you very much. I hope you are okay with this and cool with this, and that you want to help just making MobiFlight better. All right, coming to the improvements. One of the first improvements is make SIM connection status indication clearer and simpler. For those who have already seen it, we have modules. There's only one SIM status, and then also the offline mode has moved into the status bar because I found that makes sense. It's kind of really important that you see this with the offline mode. The little light bulb goes on. If you turn it off, it will go off. And here in the SIM status, we will see whether a simulator is running at the moment, which in my case it's not, and whether you have a connection to your SIM using FSUIPC or SimConnect or both. So if either or is here connected, then it will turn green. And you know what? I'm going to fire up my flight sim real quick to show how it is going to look. All right, so look at that. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is currently starting, but we already see that the SIM status has turned to green, and we can see that the MSFS 2020 got detected, and that we're also using the WASM module through the SimConnect interface. And yeah, I think this makes it a little clearer. It's not cluttered down here, so crowded and packed with information. I hope you like it too. Let's move on to the next improvement. All right, the next improvement is, as a user, I cannot create more devices than the firmware allows to prevent confusion. And that's pretty cool because MobiFlight now keeps track of the devices that you have already added to your board, and it will check with the maximum amount or allowed number of such devices with the current firmware, and it will create a notification if you're trying to go beyond this number. And as an example, I will pick the LCD display. So LCD display, the maximum number for a mega board is 2 LCDs. On this mega board, I have already one LCD display configured. So if I go and configure a second one, it will let me. But if I go and try to add a third one, now it will tell me you cannot add another LCD display. The maximum is 2 on a MobiFlight Mega. And that's pretty cool. That's really user-friendly. MobiFlight now keeps track, checks with the firmware how many are allowed, and will let you know if you go beyond those limits. All right, another improvement is that the release notes pop-up could use some redesign. So that's how it got phrased when it got into the feature request pipeline. So we have changed this now. So if you started for the first time after an upgrade, you will see that you have a nice clean look of the release notes. You can scroll down. It's a bigger pop-up window. Cool. All right, let's move on. Another improvement is that we are now clearly labeling the actions that depend on FSUIPC, or the actions that are meant for the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And this is something that you will see if you go to the inputs section. I'll say demo, edit, I'll take some arbitrary button, and now you will see this one says it's MSFS 2020 events, MSFS 2020 custom input. So you know this has to do something with MSFS 2020, and it's also relevant only for this flight simulator platform. There are other ones that are more general, like generic here, MobiFlight Variable or the MobiFlight retrigger switches. And then there's all these bunch of like FSU IPC dependent input actions that you cannot use if you're using MobiFlight for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 without FSU IPC, which is possible now, but obviously then you won't be able to use those. They are superseded, yeah, by these kind of events. But obviously now it's really clear and understandable to anyone who takes a look at those, that they require FSU IPC or that they're meant for a very specific purpose. All right, another improvement is this one. MobiFlight module settings cancel button cannot be canceled. If we click on it, we have a nice explanation by Jaime, who is also in the community, who submitted this with a lot of detailed information, very easy to reproduce. So basically, it's saying that in the past, when you made modifications to your board, and you ended up with this little icon here, and you wanted to go down, cancel, you wanted to close the dialog, it would tell you, hey, there are still changes not uploaded. You will lose these changes if you close the form, and regardless whether you were clicking OK or cancel, it would always close the dialog and you would lose those changes. If you click cancel now, you stay here, you can modify, you can go upload your change, blah blah blah. If you go again, cancel, OK, then it closes this dialog, and then it also your changes will be lost, yeah, until you do them again. Cool. Saying this now would probably also qualify as a bug fix. I categorize it as an improvement. Yeah, I hope you're okay with that too. Okay, so the last improvement is have direct access to the MobiFlight board settings, and I'm going to show you this. Basically, in the past, you would always have to go to settings, MobiFlight modules, and then it takes 3 clicks to get actually to your board and do something with it. Now we have another toolbar icon here where you can click and it takes you immediately to the MobiFlight modules page. So it's a quick access button, so to speak, a direct access button, and I hope it saves you some time. I hope you like it. All right, we are now at the last section, the bug fixes, the last things that I'm going to explain, not so much in detail. Maybe some of them I'm going to show, but not every single one of them, to save us some time. It has been such a long video already. I hope you appreciate the information about the bug fixes too. The WASM Alvars preset list pops up multiple times. This was something when you go in here and you say, I want a SIM connect, and then you got the list from the SIM that popped up, provided you the Alvars list. Okay, if you did this a second time and you clicked, then this would actually pop up 2 times. If you opened the dialog a 3rd time, it will show you 3. There was something wrong on the MobiFlight side. I fixed this. This is now taken care of. It only pops up once. There was a crash dialog always showing up when the SIM got closed, like Microsoft Flight Simulator shut down while MobiFlight was still running. This was something that many people observed. It was actually a problem with the WASM module, I believe. So update the WASM module, update MobiFlight. It's gonna take, or it's taken care of. You can shut down the Microsoft Flight Simulator. MobiFlight will still be up, and you can still save your configuration. It will not crash. There was a little bug fix with the output configuration that was more like during the beta phase, I believe, especially that it did not retain the PWM enabled state. For pins that support PWM, we can set this checkbox, and it kind of got lost. we got reported, or I observed that when you were putting in to the LCD settings here something like an invalid number, it would break. It would also close out the software. I changed this actually. Now you have a drop down. These are the only addresses that really make sense. And also here, if you put an A or so, there's a validation. It will not break anymore. And then also Helimac reported that he had trouble with the LCDs when he was using the 16 column by 1 row displays, which I never possessed, and they would just break, like the MobiFlight board would not respond anymore, and it was a division by 0 problem, I believe. Like when I'm aligning MobiFlight rocks, there was just a problem with that. This is taken care of. And then there was a tiny observation here with a missing word. The firmware was successful. Obviously, it's the firmware upload was successful. There was another typo fixed in the load preset data, which prevented us from loading the presets correctly, which was a nice catch, which was also provided by someone from the community. Thank you very much also for providing the pull request with the fix. And yeah, in general, the cancel button was misbehaving in the settings dialog. I showed this already with this exclamation mark. When you were able to cancel, but the configuration change, even though it was not uploaded to the module, was still kind of present in the MobiFlight application. So MobiFlight was thinking that you already had added a device, even though that was not the case. This is working now. Everything's cool. Bugs are there to get fixed. We're trying to take care of it. I'm trying to take care of it as soon as I can. And yeah, with this, we are coming to the end of this release review video. All right, so now we're here at the end of this release review video. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Help me to get beyond the 2,000 subscribers soon, please. If you haven't done, also make sure you turn on the notification bell. Go to the website, download MobiFlight for free if you haven't done so. Join the Discord. You saw that there's a Discord button on the MobiFlight app itself. Super easy to join. It's very interactive. It's an awesome community. If you're more the forums guy, go to the website, sign up for free, join the forums, participate there, exchange your ideas. I mean, this community is just incredibly helpful. They're helping out each other, ideating together, collaborating. So cool to see what is created, and I'm really proud that MobiFlight helps you. And if you believe MobiFlight is really like helping you building your home cockpit, please consider also donating. A little, can be more. It's super nice feedback for me, and it also helps to kind of cover the expenses. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all guys when I'm going to do the next release review video, or as I also promised, I will create some more videos about the new functions and also about GitHub. So with this being said, have a great night, stay safe and healthy, enjoy your home cockpit building experience, and MobiFlight is helping you for sure. See you next time. Bye bye.